Over 1,000,000 years ago, an omnipotent god that we refer to as the Soul King existed in a primordial soup of chaos. He watched hollows devour everything inside. He did as much as he could to keep down the threat of the hollows, but it was too much. The Soul King possessed a 4-pupil complete version of the Almighty, something that not even Yhwach was in possession of. This is the ability to see into every possible timeline, stretching into infinity. The Almighty allows its user to reshape reality with a single thought, by bringing their desired future into the present. So this suggests that the Soul King was aware of the fate that had awaited him. The ancestors of the 5 great noble families had ambushed the Soul King. They spent hours or even days carving away his limbs, gouging out his heart, scraping out his organs until there was nothing but a torso with eyes. They then sealed the Soul King away in a crystal prison. The most shocking thing about this fate is that the Soul King knew that it was going to happen, and he allowed the ancestors of the 5 great noble families to do this to him. The Soul King had 4 pupils in his eyes compared to Yhwach's 3, meaning his version of the Almighty was the perfected form. He didn't just see possible futures like his son. It's theorized that he perceived time as a flat circle, viewing past, present, and the future all at the same time. Every grain of possibility, every branching timeline and outcome existed within his awareness all at the same time. So when the ancestor of the Tsuneyashiro clan had tied up the Soul King with the help of Ichibei, the Soul King knew what was about to happen. When they sealed him in that crystal prison and transformed him into a living battery, he absolutely was aware of his fate. One of the biggest questions within the deeper lore of Bleach is, why didn't the Soul King stop them? Why did he allow himself to be mutilated? To start unpacking the answer to this mystery, we have to begin 1,000,000 years ago in a reality that shouldn't have existed. The original primordial world of Bleach was a stagnant cesspool where life and death didn't exist as separate concepts. Souls just accumulated. Hollows ate humans, creating Menos, and the entire circulation of Reishi grounded to a halt. Picture a cosmic traffic jam where nothing moves forward, nothing progresses, everything just piles up until the universe itself starts suffocating under its own weight. The Soul King appeared like a supernatural immune response. The world itself rejected the conditions that it had created, and out popped this transcendent being who could turn hollows into sand. A Quincy Shinigami Fullbringer human, all of it wrapped into a singular omnipotent being, whose powers resulted in the Soul King becoming the nearest thing to a god that we are aware of within the cosmology of Bleach. But here's where things get twisted. The existence of the Soul King and his solution to the problem of the primordial world was making everything worse. He protected humans by completely annihilating hollows, not purifying them. He wasn't recycling their souls, he was just erasing them from existence, in a similar way to how Quincy's eliminate hollows. This is the complete opposite of how the Shinigami eliminate hollows. Their Zanpakuto purifies the hollow so that the soul can be sent to the Soul Society, thus reinforcing the cycle of souls, which helps to keep reality in check. So with the Soul King eliminating vast quantities of hollows, thus erasing their souls permanently, it stagnated the world even further. The primordial realm started descending into chaos because the Soul King's protection disrupted the natural flow that needed to exist. He realized he'd become the problem. He was the bottleneck for reality not progressing. And with the Almighty showing him every possible future, he must have seen something that had made him decide that the only path to a sustainable universe would require his own sacrifice. Now this is where the ancestors of the 5 great noble families enter the picture. Each of them had their own agenda and vision for how reality should work. The Tsuneyashiro ancestor was paranoid about the Soul King's destructive power eventually turning against them. The Kuchiki clan ancestor wanted a new order to stabilize everything. The Shohoin clan ancestor pushed for greater circulation to advance the stagnant world. The ancestor belonging to the unnamed 5th noble family believed that they needed a lid to cover over the pit of hell. And then there was the Shiba clan clan ancestor, the only one with a conscience. While the others conspire to use the Soul King as a cosmic tool, the Shiba clan ancestor argued for purification instead of annihilation. He stated that Hollows had hearts too, they deserved redemption, not obliteration. When the plan to seal the Soul King came to light, the Shiba clan ancestor objected violently. He stated, "We must make known far and wide the sin that we have committed and entrust our judgment to the world." They even searched for a technique to sacrifice themselves instead of the Soul King to become the linchpin in his place. But the Tsuneyashiro clan ancestor didn't just want a sealed god. The paranoia of the strength of the Soul King had consumed him, even after the Soul King submitted without resistance, which should have been their first clue that something deeper was happening. The Tsuneyashiro clan ancestor feared a future rebellion from the Soul King, so he led the other ancestors in the most horrific act of mutilating the Soul King because of his own paranoia and fear. They tore off his right arm, the arm of stillness and stagnation. They ripped away his left arm, the arm of advancement and progress, and they carved out his heart as they whittled away his legs, and they scraped out his internal organs. They butchered him until he existed in a state between life and death, a convenient figurehead who couldn't exhale, let alone rebel. The Soul King, who ended up saving the primordial world, was rewarded with eternal torture. And the worst part is that he knew that this was going to happen to him. If you think about it, possessing the Almighty isn't a blessing, it's a curse dressed up as an ability. Yhwach figured this out when he temporarily wielded Yhwach's Almighty. He called it cruel, grieving over the burden of seeing futures you can't change. But Yhwach's Almighty was a bargain bin version. The 3 pupils instead of 4, he could see and alter possible futures, but the Soul King's 4 pupiled eyes transcended even that. The Soul King didn't see possibilities, he saw inevitabilities. Every timeline, choice and consequence existed in his awareness as established fact, and somewhere in that infinite knowledge he discovered something that forced him to make an impossible choice. The Can't Fear Unworld light novels presents us with 2 possibilities for why the Soul King accepted his fate, and the truth remains deliberately ambiguous because either option is equally disturbing. The first possibility is that resistance was futile for the Soul King. Maybe in every timeline where the Soul King fought back against the ancestors of the noble families, the outcome would have been worse. The world collapsed immediately, reality tore itself apart, the stagnation he had already caused by annihilating Hollows reached a breaking point that destroyed everything. His omniscience showed him a wall of apocalyptic futures where his resistance led to total annihilation. And this isn't just of the primordial world, but of existence itself. Imagine seeing billions of possible futures, and in every single one where you defend yourself, everyone dies. The souls you try to protect are gone. The world you stabilized by destroying Hollows is shattered beyond repair. So the only choice that remains is to accept what is about to happen and save the universe, or fight back and watch everything cease to exist. Yhwach believed that his father saw his own death thousands of years before it happened, that the Soul King watched Ichigo cut him in the royal palace and did nothing to prevent it. While this may appear to be a tragedy, it was in fact calculated by the Soul King. When the Almighty shows you that every act of self-preservation leads to universal collapse, acceptance isn't weakness, it's the only logical choice that the Soul King had. The second possibility is that the Soul King saw hope in the new world. What if he looked at the Ancestors' plan, which is the separation of reality into 3 realms, the creation of a soul cycle, the establishment of life and death as distinct concepts, and recognized it as the solution to the stagnation problem that he helped to create. His annihilation of Hollows had broken the circulation of souls. The world was slowly melting into chaos according to Ichibe's account. Nothing progressed or retreated, it was just an endless frozen moment stretching across eons. But the 5 ancestors proposed something radical, split reality into 3 realms where souls could actually circulate through life and death instead of accumulating in primordial sludge. Maybe the Soul King saw a glimmer of hope in their vision, a future where his sacrifice, however brutal it may be, enabled the universe to finally move forward, where the cycle of reincarnation replaced infinite stagnation, where Hollows could be purified instead of annihilated, addressing the very problem that the Shiba ancestor had identified. So the Soul King presumably let himself be sealed. He let them mutilate him and become the linchpin holding the new reality together together because his perfect omniscience revealed that this was the only path where existence continued and progressed. The ancestors believed that they ambushed the Soul King, but the Soul King had already watched them do it across infinite timelines. He knew Ichibei would help them. He was aware of the Suneyashiro ancestors' paranoia, which would lead to him being mutilated, and he was aware that his own body parts would scatter across the three worlds. He accepted it all because his omniscience revealed a truth that should terrify anyone. Sometimes the only way to save everything is to sacrifice yourself in the most brutal way imaginable. The Soul King's body parts inherited his will. Mimihagi, his right arm of Stagnation, chose to protect the Soul Society for centuries. It was worshipped in Rukongai, healing those who offered it their diseased body parts. When the Soul King died, Mimihagi grabbed onto his corpse and stabilized the three worlds temporarily, continuing his father's sacrifice. Pernida, his left arm of advancement, joined Yhwach's Vandenreich. It sought to return the world to how it was before, to undo the separation, to reunite life and death. But even in opposing his father's choice, Pernida was enacting the will of the Soul King because the Almighty saw this too. The left arm representing those who'd reject the new world, the right arm representing those who'd protect it. Gerard Valkyrie, the heart of the Soul King, manifested the Shrift, the miracle, which is the power to rewrite the rules of life and death itself, growing stronger from every defeat. The heart of the Soul King, which could transform despair into power, that couldn't be permanently killed by even the strongest captains like Kinpachi. Each piece of the Soul King became a sentient god-tier being, and each one followed a path that he'd already seen. What's interesting is Yhwach possessed a 3-pupil version of the Almighty that let him see and alter all possible futures. He should have been able to predict everything, but Mimihagi and Pernida's actions remained invisible to him. They existed in blind spots even the Almighty couldn't penetrate. What this appears to be because they inherited something from the Soul King's 4-pupil version of the Almighty. They carried a fragment of that perfect omniscience that transcended fate itself. And if they could act outside of Yhwach's future sight, that means that the Soul King's power existed on a level beyond even his own son's evolved abilities. The Soul King allowed himself to be scattered across 3 worlds, his influence spreading like a virus. The Fullbringers inherited Soul King fragments, gaining reality-bending powers. Like Orihime's Shunshin Rika abilities, Rangiku carried a piece that Aizen eventually fed to his Hokyoku. Ugitake was the vessel for Mimihagi for decades. Yhwach's Sternritter included the Soul King's own limbs among their ranks. Every fragment maintained connection to the whole. Every piece carried a sliver of that god-level power. And all of this happened because the Soul King allowed it to happen. The Suneyashiro clan ancestor thought that he was disempowering a threat, but he was actually enacting the plan of the Soul King, spreading his essence across reality, ensuring that the influence of the Soul King would persist even as a mutilated torso. So what does this exactly make the Soul King? Was he a victim, or was he somebody manipulating circumstances, playing 4D chess with existence itself? The ancestors of the noble families believed that they betrayed him, but you can't betray someone who orchestrates their own betrayal. They thought that they were sealing away a threat, but the Soul King needed to be sealed to stabilize the separation of worlds. They thought mutilating him would ensure compliance, but his body parts became the most powerful entities in the 3 realms. The fact is, the Shiba clan ancestor was the only one who understood or at least suspected the truth. That's why they opposed the sealing, why they wanted to sacrifice themselves instead of the Soul King. The Shiba clan ancestors' refusal to commit the original sin got their clan erased from history, stripped of noble status and scattered, because the Suneyashiro clan couldn't allow anyone to question the lie that they'd built the Soul Society upon. The Soul Society, the supposed good guys, exist because of torture and betrayal. Every Shinigami who fights to protect the world serves a system founded on the mutilation of a being who saved them all. The Central 46 governs based on laws that enforce this big lie. The Gotei 13 maintains order that requires a limbless god sealed in crystal to function. You have to keep reminding yourself that the Soul King saw all of it. The thousands of years of imprisonment, the rise of the Soul Society's corruption, the birth of the Gotei 13, Yhwach's birth and eventual rebellion, Aizen's betrayal, Ichigo's role as the one who would have replaced him. Every piece of the game board was visible before he had made the first move. If you possessed the Almighty and you were the Soul King, would you have made the choice that the Soul King made? Imagine seeing every timeline where you fight back, which leads to universal collapse. Every timeline where you run causes everything to cease to exist. The only path to survival requires your eternal suffering. Do you choose this agony knowing that it saves countless souls across the 3 realms, or do you fight back, dooming everyone because you can't accept being sacrificed? This was the decision that the Soul King supposedly had to make. So yeah, we have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. What are your thoughts about the darkest secret of Bleach, which is the Soul King actually wanted to be mutilated? If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention about the original sin and the plan of the Soul King, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thank you for making it to the end of this video, and I look forward to seeing you in my next one.
A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.